Hola compañeras y compañero, hemos llegado al final de este semestre de verano. Sin embargo, no nos estamos yendo con las manos vacías. Hemos aprendido tanto en estas 4 semanas, pues nos estamos llevando con nosotros las herramientas necesarias para tener éxito en nuestra instrucción del lenguaje dual. Now that my introduction was done in Spanish, I will move on to do the rest of the video in English. This intensive dual language course was, for me, a basis to understand what a dual language implementation done in the correct format looks like. This class has given me the necessary tools to provide better feedback for my students to implement knowledgeably everything that I have learned through the semester. And this class has also given everyone at least the proper vocabulary to advocate for dual language implementation. I could not start discussing my overall experience of this course without explaining to you what it was like to be a student in the United States back in 1998, when I first arrived to the United States and I was registering to ESL classes. Believe it or not, I can still remember the daunting day when I was registered in a school here in El Paso. I remember that we drove with my aunt. She took us to the high school and I was going to be registered for the 10th grade. My mom had no experience whatsoever registering one of her children in here. I am the youngest one of 3. And she came in and we were already told by my aunt that we needed some paperwork done and I would be getting registered and I would be going to school like my cousins were going, except they were going to 1st and 2nd grade and I was going to high school. So we get into this office. There's this lady who looks like, I think, principal secretary combined with campus security. So she's asking my mom, do you have the vaccinations? Do you have the vaccines? And she said, aren't you going to introduce me to who you are? Aren't you going to introduce me to the campus? Aren't you going to tell me what you have to offer for me to register my child in your school? And the lady said, do you have your vaccines? And my mom said, do you even know that I'm registering a child here or if I am just asking for information? I remember this went on for 5 to 10 minutes until my aunt decided to intercede into the conversation. The lady, again, campus security, she looked at my mom and she said, is the child yours or is it that lady's? To which my mom started asking, could I speak with somebody else? And the lady kept asking, do you have your vaccines? Is it that you need information because you need to get vaccines? So by this point, it has been 15 minutes and I remember my mom saying, I'm here to register my child. She will be joining this school. I already have my paperwork. All I need to know is what classes or what education program do you have to offer? This takes me back to our chapters that we read about faculty and staff being prepared for answering the questions that surround the whole school, the programs that they offer, everything that surrounds the educational programs that they have on campus. So I end up being registered. I get into the wrong classes. The lady decided to put me in monolingual classes without even asking if we came from Mexico or if I spoke English and Spanish correctly. She just decided to register me into monolingual classes. And she saw it fit that because I had studied in Mexico and I had 3 years of English, that I was able to speak the language correctly. Having said this, I spent 10 days in monolingual classes. I am failing every single class except Spanish. And the art teacher decides to ask me, are you understanding anything? Because I see that you understand what I write. The geometry teacher asked me, are you understanding anything? Because you seem to understand the practice work and your homework. Is it that you're getting it translated at home? So after these 2 teachers decide to get involved, my mom decides to do her own searching outside of school, and I end up being tested for ESL classes. Sophomore year, I take English 1, English 2, ESL 1, ESL 2, and they're trying to register me for everything else that comes into my junior year. Once I become part of the ESL program, my learning spurs, according to counselors. If it wasn't for my teacher's interference and for my mother's diligence, I truly believe that I would have not received the necessary tools to learn English as a second language in a timely fashion. And through the same path that I did, I took ESL classes my sophomore year. I got out of the program the same year, but I just think that I needed that extra hump, that extra step to reassure me that I had the tools necessary for me to succeed as a high school student. Although I was never part of a dual language program, I remember hearing from your class that that dual language was developed as a means to help ESL students. That the ESL classes perhaps could have been better granted the help and support of faculty and community, but I know, and it's a reassuring point for me, that through taking these ESL classes, I was able to succeed. And again, even though it was not through dual language courses, I was able to see my language skills develop through a span of a year. And I'm pretty sure that they were using techniques that are now being used also for dual language. So this memory that I just spoke to you about was triggered due to the videos that we were seeing in class. I don't know if you recall the video that is called the integration and immersion, where a mom is going to school. She's going to register her kid in a monolingual class. She visits the school, she gets information from faculty, from staff, and then she gets to do a walkthrough of the school grounds, and she goes into this classroom. And after her whole visit, she decides to register her kid in a Mandarin course, and she's going to be joining the pre-K with Mandarin, English, and perhaps later on another language. Here we see a parent going above and beyond the needs of her child, and she's seeing the potential of growth that her child could have as she goes into a class or as she goes into a program such as this one. Now I am fast forwarding this story of connection to this course to 2006. This was after my first year of teaching, and I got the opportunity to go to a session that they do. It's a week-long session at Mesita, one of our EPISD schools that works with dual language and GT students. And I get to see and experience this GT/Dual Language Institute, where I get to see all the students involved into this full immersion of both languages, which was very, very interesting. Yet I knew that I was not able to teach it at my school because they only had dual language courses for middle school, and then at the high school level they had math and science, and that's it. So all my exposure to dual language had been through the GT part of it, and I was not able to make connections because I was only given fragments of what a dual language class should look like. So what happened after that is that in 2009, I get the opportunity to get exposed and fully immersed into teaching a class. According to TEEX, and TEA, they needed to have a course for Spanish for it to become a dual language class. So in 2009, they developed the linguistics course, and I got to write part of the curriculum for it. And it was really interesting to see, now that I was in a dual language classroom setting, what the potential of my class and the students could become. After being exposed to this type of students, these classes, the course, the rigor, you get to see that students have potential. The students get to grow within the classroom, and they go above and beyond. Yet, how can I put this? The material that I received, I would only see it as how is it directly connected to my student population and to my classroom. Having said that, it is important to understand that we would receive materials weekly, monthly, each semester, each year, but we would only get the books. We get the books, you get to read them, you get to discuss it, you discuss it with your dual language team if you have one. But I was the only one teaching Spanish until 3 years ago. So anything that I learned, I had to implement it into my classroom, and if it didn't work, I didn't know who to go to because I had no idea if I was implementing it correctly or if I was applying the techniques that were supposed to be used with my student population. So again, having in mind that I received a lot of materials over the years, but I was never properly introduced to how to use it, I think was some, in part, hindering what I was doing with my students. Therefore, it took this college course to guide me and connect me to the possibilities of a dual language program, what it has to offer, and as well as the extensive materials out there that back it up. The famous graph that we have overlooked in PDs across the district, not only by educators, but mostly by presenters. It has been overlooked, it has been overused, and the fact that it's always presented, it's like saying, oh, you as a teacher, you already know what it is. You as a teacher already understand it. We're just showing it to you so you can use it as a refresher for you. A lot of the materials that has been handed to me in my job, such as the bilingual brain poster, and although it was in my classroom for most of last year, I got to see it this semester and how to apply it, how to implement what it means, and how to use it to my benefit in my classroom. The materials from Tomás and Collier provided much positive reassurance. It had great feedback to what I'm doing in the classroom and what my district is envisioning for the future. It was enlightening to see the material from Tomás and Collier. I have seen two of the books. The burgundy color one, I had read it in the past and I could not get past page 30. I could not understand it. And again, I would go back and say, how can this help my student population? Is it going to help me implement dual language education into my classroom better? So seeing it from this fresher look from a person who is knowledgeable of what she's doing, who has experience in the classroom, who has experience as an administrator, helped me understand that what I am doing it correctly in the classroom. The same happened with the guiding principles. I have had the book since 2 years ago. I read it. It looked like an enormous gigantic monster to read it and understand everything, that I took it to heart, that it looked like the t-test. So I only abided by the rules and I only went by what should I be looking for that will show my administrators that I am doing what it's being asked for based on this book. Now, having seen it into the presentations that we did the first or second week of school, I got to experience the guiding principles not as this gigantic monster that I had imagined before, but I got to see it into chunks and I got to really understand what it means. I got to really understand how is it that I can apply families and communities, like Estefania says. She stated that dual language is as much as its administrator, its faculty, the students, and the community. A vision shared by all the stakeholders in which the growth of the program relies on the contact with the public. The guiding principles sought to demonstrate the teaching standards across all subjects, regardless of students being in dual language or not. What it actually seeks is to help educators implement a better learning experience through the expansion of student learning opportunities. Through this book and the presentations, I got to understand that the principles and their 7 strands benefit all, not only the dual language students or the program. Another piece of information that was introduced briefly in my school were the DLE competencies brought by us, by our feeder pattern, Mesita. It was given to us as you have to complete this as a teacher because you're getting an incentive. So it's here you are, you're being told to do it, you're getting paid to do it, so now do it. Without any other explanation, just that, oh, it's coming from somewhere else and you have to complete it. Being in this course has opened my eyes to understand the connection or direct connections that there is between these competencies and the importance that it has to the dual language programs. The purpose for the completion of the dual language competencies is to provide consistency across the district. And I think this is a very interesting take because it is important for us to understand that teachers may remain in the classroom, same school, same year after year, yet students, they tend to move, go other places. Parents decide to take them out of the school. Parents decide to transfer schools, and students need to have that consistency that wherever they move, wherever they go, they get to see that their growth goes with them, that the dual language program will be the same across the district. Finally, overall, these have been 4 weeks filled with information that has been embedded positively in my bilingual brain. These weeks, I have been able to attest the possibilities that a well-implemented dual language program can develop in a school and a community where it is supported by all parties involved.